Hello, everyone. How's everything going? Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for those of you on the other side of the world. I'm grateful to have you here, and I'm glad that we can have you here now instead of later when it's then your Monday morning instead. So it's going to be a very informal live stream. I just spent about half an hour with the patrons just hanging out. We were just chatting about the different things that have been happening and what we're going to go over this week. So I posted a link in the chat, and I guess I will post it again here a couple times because it seems to be, chat seems to be moving a little bit. No, I am not streaming from my phone. I'm streaming from my studio, and this is just footage that I recorded earlier this week. I also just realized that I have nothing to drink besides this tiny amount of root beer for the rest of the stream. So good luck to me. All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome. Please yell at me in chat if anything is off. We've occasionally had audio sync issues, or maybe there's a glitch with streaming or something. I'm streaming at a rather robust bit rate, so perhaps that'll drop too. So anybody just yell at me if something's going on here that's not supposed to be. I think I've muted all of the other streams and things that I have like in the background, so you shouldn't be hearing any audio twice. So just let me know if anything's going wrong in the chat, and I'll try and catch that. That's when you see me looking up here. This is my battle station is about this big in front of me here, and I've got everything on two different screens in about 4 different big windows, all and other things scattered all over the place. So anyway, sorry about the notification. Evil Ferret, we haven't really started anything yet. I've just been talking, but then again, this live stream is pretty much going to be a lot like this. I have 3 or 4 cases to go over, but they're all several hours long, and I'm not going to be able to go over them. So we're just going to talk about whether you want me to go over them during this next week. So some quick things for the channel. I am trying to step up my game for August. I have been working very hard to get rid of old cases and work and just stuff that was bogging me down, and I'm finally able to get rid of some things, and your donations and your support has helped me to also get rid of those things, and so I am ready to start stepping up video production here, especially here in August, which should be a much lighter month for me. A lot of my opposing counsels and judges take their family vacations in July and August, so there's lots of opportunities for not a lot of just hourly kind of work. Also, the Alex malware case is kind of in a break because the judge gave her 30 days to find an attorney and then another 35 days to respond. So while there are still many things going on there, and I can't talk about all of them on a live stream like this, but we are moving along, but things are not moving as fast as they could be, and so I'm not balls to the wall busy trying to get all that done. So I'm stepping up video production. So let's talk about what some of those videos could be. One, we already know that New Sensei has sponsored a Basics of Copyright for YouTubers video. That's going to be coming up. He and I can talk about that pretty much anytime here, but I want to get that out sooner in the month rather than later. I don't want it to be something that I'm scrambling to do at the end of the month as I feel bad that I didn't get it done. I want it to be a priority. So the Basics of Copyright for YouTubers video is probably coming in the next week or two. Will be a, I don't know, 10, 20, 30-minute video, probably about 30 or 40 minutes really by the time. You know me, how this works. But on how copyright works, especially for what YouTubers frequently do. YouTubers frequently copy other people's videos or copy images or copy sounds. When are you allowed to do that? When are you not allowed to do that? When you allowed to do that and just give credit? And when are you not allowed to do that without a serious exposure to a risk of a lawsuit or claim or something like that. So let's first look at chat and see, can I share a picture of my battle station? Not quite. My whole studio here is an absolute wreck, which you might not be able to tell from looking behind me, but the whole room is just an absolute wreck, and I would be frankly a little bit embarrassed to take a picture in the opposite direction. So I'm gonna clean, which I've been saying for every weekend for the past several months as far as I know, but I'm going to clean this all up and make it look nice, and that'll be good for me too, because you can only imagine that the clutter that I see is probably also in my head. So it'd be a good idea for me to just get decluttered of everything. Is there an H3H3 update? No, there isn't, but you know what? I love you guys. I will check again right now, because that's just how cool I am. Also, it's a weekend and their computer systems respond so much faster on a weekend. Nope, nothing since 3:17. I'm so sorry. There is still no H3H3 update for you. Oh crap, my keyframe interval is terrible. Stay right here. I'm going to kill the stream and come right back up with the proper keyframe interval. Alright, I should be back up now with the proper keyframe interval. I don't know why that was broken. I only set that several times today. Harmony Gold versus Hairbrained and Jordan Wiseman. Yes. Flash Frame asks if we can cover the Harmony Gold case. Absolutely. Why hasn't it been covered already? This is the Battletech case. This is the case where Macross and Robotech claim to own rights to designs on battle mechs that were then used by MechWarrior and Jordan Wiseman and Hairbrained Studios. Once in, well, Jordan Wiseman in the 90s, that case was settled, but the terms of that settlement aren't exactly clear, and that settlement may have only been for the claims in that case. And if that's the case, then we don't know what the status is of mechs for the new Battletech game. And so that's what this suit is over. Do the mechs in the new Battletech game, are they substantially similar to Macross's copyrighted mechs from the early 80s or late 70s? So, good question. It is not an easy solution. It's not an easy one to answer, and it's not a simple lawsuit. I have found huge amounts of research on this going into the hundreds of pages, so I haven't gotten through any of that yet, and I don't want to present an incomplete picture to you. Sid Alpha did a good job of presenting an overall video, and I don't just want to duplicate his efforts, so I'm going to take my time on that one, and there will be a Hairbrained Studios video on the Battletech situation. Did Alex breach the restraining order? It's sort of possible. That's a very good question that I was going to make, and I'm still probably going to make an entire short video on, but the short answer is that it's a very gray area, and we have a decent burden of proof to go to court on, and I need a very, very clear violation of the TRO in order to go to court on it. This video that was allegedly taken down, one, may have been intentionally put up to antagonize Alex, but that's just an argument. That's not really an invalidation of... You're allowed to put stuff up that antagonizes people, so that's not a reason why, but let's just say that doesn't make it a very good case. I'm not going to be able to present my case to the judge and say, look, we haven't done anything wrong. At least someone's going to be able to say, someone put up a video to try and antagonize Alex. So that's one, but that's not necessarily a negation of the case. But two, the video contained many different compositions, and I have not been able to trace the origin of all of the compositions and the ownership of all the compositions and the permission for the performance and all that. I have not been able to trace that to a clear violation of the TRO. It may be possible that there is a valid takedown in there someplace, and I don't want to cash in our case's credibility on our second impression with the judge and our first time that we're making an argument on the merits before the judge. I don't want to go in with anything less than a very clear violation of the TRO. So Starmazer is still for sale. My client is still operating, and people are able to put up videos that don't contain images of Alex or music by Alex, and for the most part that seems to be a stable place right now. Also, a more practical side to the Imago Softworks situation is that we did raise $17,000 or $18,000, but you know that's only $17,000 or $18,000 in the grand scheme of things. That's not a lot of money when it comes to a full-blown court case. Alex has sent over 100 DMCA takedown notices, possibly approaching 150 at this point. We've gone through $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 worth of the donations so far of the budget. Filing the lawsuit cost a little over $1,000 just in costs. Traveling back and forth has cost, and then I've put in about 30, 40 hours into the case so far. So I don't want to burn through our budget quickly. I want to make sure that we save the last $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. I think it's $9,000 that's left. That we save the $9,000 that's left, and for what we need it for. Alex will be getting an attorney and responding to the complaint, and I will have to prepare an amended complaint possibly. If other plaintiffs want to join, I have to consider how those funds are going to pay for those plaintiffs' cases or not. So this is a very, very complicated financial situation as well. And I'm doing my best to budget, and also, let's not forget that there is an overarching client here. One client, Imago Softworks, is directing things. And while Imagos and I are working together on directing things, you have to understand that we are representing as best, how to get the company through and how to get the game through. And the community, as much as I'd love to be able to bring every single one of the community members into the case and everything, who's going to pay for that? Who's going to be doing the conflicts checking so that we make sure there's no conflicts of interest between the lawyers and the parties? Who's going to take the professional responsibility and the ethical risks for that? If I make a mistake, if I mess up or something, it's a lot different if I've got one client than if I've got 100 clients. So I'm not putting the brakes on any of that. It's just the practical realities of we can't just... This is not an unlimited amount of funds and an unlimited amount of efforts that we're working with here. We are trying very much to take a single piece of quality cloth and sew a suit together out of it without having to purchase extra materials or having to hire extra experts, etc., etc., etc. So it's a little bit of a cost control situation. Gerald asks what he missed. Not much. We've just been chatting about the show and about where everything's going. What happens if Alex cannot find an attorney? I don't know. That's a good question. Would the court hold her in contempt for not finding an attorney? I don't know. There would be an inquiry into the circumstances under which she could not find an attorney, and then the judge would go from there. If it turned out that she didn't make enough of an effort, the judge might hold her in some kind of contempt or allow our case to proceed into some kind of default. If she doesn't find an attorney but still responds to the complaint, that's due process, and the judge can't throw the case out just because she didn't get an attorney. She'd have to not respond. So I don't think anything terrible happens if she doesn't get an attorney. I'd almost prefer if she did, because I'd rather that someone else deals with her instead of me. But we saw how that went for him last time. it's almost been easier for me to deal with her from this side of the fence than for her own attorney to have to deal with her. So, don't even know. Jay says, I made an effort, but no attorney believes my case to be defendable. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping. Why is Alex still issuing takedowns? Wasn't there a restraining order or whatever it's called? This is a very, very good question. All of that is true. There is a restraining order, and yet she's still issuing takedowns. A restraining order is just that. It's an order. It does not, the name restraining order does not tell us what the order says. It's just titled a restraining order because it restrains somebody from doing something, but that's it. That's all that the restraining order title tells us. You have to look at the contents of the order. In American law, and pretty much everywhere, you have this concept called standing. Standing is who has the right to stand in as a party in the case. Who has a right to adjudicate or advocate for their claims and defenses. I'll give you a good quick example of this. The macaque selfie case, where a monkey took a picture of itself with a camera. There is no copyright there. And so there has been a lawsuit over who owns the copyright. And no one of sound mind believes that there is really a copyright here. Macaques cannot own copyrights, and the author did not... the camera owner was not the one in control of the camera at the time that the picture was taken. So there is no copyright here. That image is uncopyrightable. However, PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals Association, have decided they want to try and stand in on behalf of the macaque. And there is currently a fight in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, I think it is, just trying to decide whether PETA has the right to even argue on behalf of a macaque, let alone argue with the argument that they're making. So that's standing. So who has standing to be under the TRO in the Imagos versus Alex Maurer case? It's the plaintiffs. And the plaintiffs right now are only Imagos Softworks and Don Thacker, and not anybody else. Not Sid Alpha, not Sean Faze, not anybody, not any of the other plaintiffs. Why? It's not because they're sitting on their butts and not doing anything. We've definitely been having conversations in the background, lots of different plaintiffs, no one individually, but we, as plaintiffs, we have all been talking together about how to proceed, and we've run into those practical situations of ethical responsibilities and money and time and effort, and only those people who are able to fully commit to the case are going to be able to be plaintiffs. And I don't mean that's like an elitist's club or anything like that. I welcome everyone to join the case, but you're going to have to join the case by signing a whole bunch of documents and taking on a whole bunch of responsibilities, and so will your attorney, and if that's me. So I'm just talking about the practical realities here, that right now the TRO has mitigated the damage against Starmazer, and if we can find some other way to deal with Alex, great. So I've had an idea, and I will post a link into the chat, actually. Let me look up my history here on my browser, on my other browser, and find this link that I've got here, because I've got an idea. There is a crimes bureau that we have here in the United States called the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And I don't know, one DMCA takedown notice doesn't seem to me to be a great crime against humanity that requires the FBI to get involved. However, there is a line, right? At some point, is it 2 takedown notices? Is it 20? Is it 50 takedown notices? Is it 100 takedown notices? How many takedown notices does someone need to send, allegedly illegitimately, before it becomes a prosecutable crime? So I did some research, and the best solution I can come up with is that we all report everyone who was directly affected, who has been actually injured by Alex Mauer's actions, should report this as a crime. And so I'm putting a link into the chat, and I'll put a link on the Lawful Masses website as well. In fact, I'm going to just take a second and do that right now. We have this wonderful login system that asks me to do math in order to log into my website. There we go. So this is the link to the Federal Bureau of Investigation Internet Crime Complaint Center. And I recommend that if you were directly affected, and especially if you can't get into court, because you're not, in the United States, or you're not going to be able to get to the United States, if it's just impractical, like I've been saying, for you to pursue this, it's a lot easier for you to just report to the FBI what has gone on. I guess I spelled that right. Okay, so that's been updated on the website as well. Stream health is good. Do you expect YouTubers to try and hire you after this case for DMCA abuse once this is settled? Sure, maybe. I don't know. That wasn't the point. But it has already happened. I've already been approached and hired several times for other things not related to the Imagos case because of some of the publicity that everything's had. That's great. Thank you for that. I really appreciate all of that. Andrew D. Snow, $5. Thank you very much for the donation. First time I am awake for one of your live streams. Thanks for being awesome. I really appreciate that. Daniel Kanata, $5. Leonard, pay attention to the other chat. You might be answering questions shown from the previous stream, just FYI. Weird. Oh, you know what? I did not switch this over. Hang on. Let's turn off this YouTube chat and add in that YouTube chat. Yeah, what I didn't do is I didn't move my profile over for the scenes. I'm sorry. There we go. That should be better. I am reading the correct chat, but I was looking at the wrong one on the stream. Where I had to display the wrong one on the stream. The chat box should be less borked now. Good. All right, so a few things that we could talk about today. There are a few interesting cases that I thought would be interesting to go over. For example, there's an update in the Zootopia lawsuit. It's not much of an update unless you like reading even longer lawsuits. The screenwriter, what's his face, in the Zootopia lawsuit, I forgot his name, has updated. Esplanade Productions is the Goldman. There we go. Gary Goldman. He has updated his lawsuit with further allegations. I did skim through it. There are no additional pictures or anything, so I'm going to have to do a further analysis on that. If you want to see a Zootopia lawsuit update, let us know in chat. Send us messages on Twitter and stuff, letting us know that you want to see that, and I'll make sure to get an update on that. What else? There is a memorandum of law in the Grinch play lawsuit. So Dr. Seuss, Mr. Geisel, I believe, I forget what his first name, Theodore Geisel, Teddy Geisel, Dr. Seuss, his estate, he has passed, his estate is suing a off-Broadway play that has allegedly infringed upon Dr. Seuss's copyrights. The play is called Whose Holiday and tells the story of a grown-up version of Cindy Lou Who, years after her fateful encounter with the Grinch. It was postponed from its off-Broadway run when it got sued, and now the two are headed to court over whether or not the play is an infringing work or whether it is a fair use of the Grinch's or Dr. Seuss's copyright. So I have the documents in that, and we can go over that either a little bit now or more in a more in-depth separate video. Theodor Seuss Geisel. Was his middle name wasn't actually Seuss. He changed it, right? Or was it? Was it really Seuss? I don't know. G. Tai Chow says, I am an artist. Utopia case interests me greatly. Any excuse for another video. Okay. Well, what I could do for the Zootopia video is use Adobe Acrobat's compare feature. I pay for the pro version, and so they've got the compare feature, and that does a really nice job of putting the two side by side, and we'll be able to see exactly what was added. So how about we do that? What else? Sorry, I gotta pop out this chat. That'll work a lot better for me now. There we go. Cindy Lou Who was now 22. You want to know about the Who's On First? Yes, let me search for that one. My news service doesn't have anything on that. Let me just do a quick internet search. I think certiorari was denied on this one. Neil Garouche is now the Ninth Circuit, but an upcoming conference to decide which cases should be heard. A question will undoubtedly be raised: who's on first? Heirs of William Bud Abbott and Lou Costello this week petitioned the High Court to review a case concerning their wildly famous comedy routine. Wow, Freudian slip there. Whew. The heirs sued the producers of the Broadway play Hand to God in June 2015, claiming copyright infringement, and what looked to be a case about fair use took a surprise turn in August 2016 when the Second Circuit Appeals decided that the heirs lacked standing to sue and suggested that Who's On First was in the public domain. That is a good one, too. Let me write that down. So we want the Zootopia. Amended complaint comparison. Who's on first? Status of copyright. So what do you think we should do there? If the Who's On First routine really is off copyright, should I add another, should we try and act it out and see how well we do? Because they were just phenomenal, the originals. Silent Snooper, $5. Thank you very much. Nice to see such a charismatic and genuine person explaining complicated things to laymen. I'm the Neil deGrasse Tyson of law. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and this is not any slight against him, but I'm more so trying to channel Bob Ross. But I think I'm a little bit more type A. I hate that phrase than Bob Ross was, though. But then again, he was a little bit more experienced at it. Whose holiday is a profane 45-year-old... Cindy Lou is a profane 45-year-old woman who spent time in prison for murdering the Grinch, who had been her husband and fathered her daughter. Oh, sounds like my ex-girlfriend. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. Yeah, I can see why maybe the estate of Teddy Geisel didn't want... didn't exactly appreciate that use of the work. Okay, so then, don't put the chat away. So then, what else is there? Pirate Joe's ordered to stop selling Trader Joe's products. A federal judge on Wednesday ordered the operator of a Vancouver store called Pirate Joe's to stop reselling Trader Joe's merchandise, affirming an arbitrator's enforcement of a settlement the two reached. So why would you settle it and then continue to sell things? So sorry, Vancouver, you are not allowed to resell Pirate Joe's merchandise and products at your Pirate Joe's store. Sorry. Kim Kardashian West sued over selfie phone case patent. Apparently, Kim Kardashian and Urban Outfitters released a phone case that had extra lighting on it, I guess for better selfies, but that allegedly violates a patent by Snaplight, which said in a California suit on Monday, the end of July, that it's harder to sell its products because the Kardashian endorsements work. The Kardashian endorsements for the competitor's product work well, unfortunately. Okay, so that's interesting. We could cover that. Kurzov Productions. Anything new with the Snopes case? What Snopes case? There's a Snopes lawsuit? I didn't know there was a Snopes lawsuit. Sophia Stewart Matrix lawsuit. Sophia Stewart did not win a large judgment in a copyright infringement suit. No, this is not. Nope, that's on Snopes. Ah. Snopes lawsuit. Judge orders disputed cash can flow to fact-checking site. Snopes creator David Mikkelsen has secured $500,000 to keep the website afloat. Mikkelsen cannot be removed as chief exec of Snopes, while the disputed $500,000 will be released to the firm that controls Snopes. Proper Media does not have standing to seek removal of Mikkelsen. Plaintiffs have not presented sufficient evidence to prove fraudulent acts. One of the issues with fraud is that fraud requires pleading with particularity. You can't just say that person committed a fraud against me. You have to say what the fraud was, and up front. You have to say it right away, and if you don't, your case gets dismissed. So, update overlay. The H3 update overlay is right there. Keep accidentally changing the chat to the wrong chat if I keep switching scenes. Let's see. How about Miss Cleo versus Rockstar over GTA Vice City? I don't know that one either. Let me first note down the Snopes lawsuit. So many good ideas. Yes, the Malware Bytes guy. Malware Tech guy, excuse me. Different company. Steven, thank you. That's my folks' yard. They let me take the dogs there and run around. Haha, Benny, have you seen the ACLU's brief in support of John Oliver? Benny, have you seen my video on the ACLU's brief in support of John Oliver? It was pretty funny, so definitely check that out if you want to hear me read that and go over it. What has happened with the Bible Reloaded? The case was dismissed. People donated money. That's it. The case was dismissed and people continued to donate money. They were a little bit upset with us, I think, that I pointed out that they were still accepting donations even though the case was over. But whatever, I think it's still going. I'm not sure if they took that down or not. I never answered who my favorite copyright attorney is. You know what? I actually don't have one. As sad as that is, I mean, maybe there are a bunch of First Amendment attorneys that are not necessarily that are not necessarily copyright attorneys, but would certainly defend copyright if they had to as a First Amendment thing. And I'm going to try and look up his name because it's been a couple years since I saw him, but there is one attorney who I really, really follow. No, I can't say that because it's been a couple years and I can't remember his name, but who I've really, really enjoyed seeing speak when he speaks. And he runs a website. It's like, it's not, I can't say it out loud. I don't know what it is yet. Hang on. It's public something. And when I remember it, I'll answer your question. So, my apologies for not answering that question today. Old World Media, $10. Thank you for keeping me company this Sunday. Thank you as well, Old World Media, for your donation and for keeping me company as well. Many people say that protest doesn't change anything. And not true. I think protest has changed a lot. I think protest is a way of saying that there's more energy behind this than a person or entity has judged, and we're going to show you as kind of a warning that this could get worse. But then again, you know, you can stave off or siege out protests sometimes too. Ms. Cleo's estate is suing. They did the same thing when Ms. Cleo was alive. She did a commercial for Kellogg's. They sued because they own the image of Ms. Cleo. Ms. Cleo is a person or a game? And it's the psychic Ms. Cleo, and she's in Rockstar? She's in GTA 5? Okay. If she's in GTA 5, that also appropriates likeness rights, and she's probably not allowed to do that either. John Grisham. I have seen some of the movies made off of his books, but I have not read any of his books. I'm sorry. I tend to read a book or listen to a book, or watch the movie, not both, kind of exclusively. And lately I've been more into nonfiction than anything else. Lawrence Lessig is definitely one of the attorneys that I follow or admire, but he's not the one I was talking about. I will say that one of my mentor attorneys, Jim Holzinger, is a local real estate and civil attorney, kind of a general practice. He doesn't advertise. He's not an internet person. He wouldn't benefit from this stream in any way, but he's such a nice, down-to-earth, just good example of a decent attorney, a very decent person and a very decent attorney, and that's been my example to follow, really. Ken White is another very good First Amendment attorney. You've heard Mark Randazza be mentioned a few times. He's always been nice to me. I know there's been some things said about him, but I don't have anything bad to say about Mark Randazza. He's a good First Amendment attorney as well, and I would turn to him if I had questions about stuff too. So he was recently on an episode of Vice. He's representing, I want to say, as he usually does, he likes to represent the elements that don't often get represented. So, you know, who knows? Maybe Mark Randazza will represent Alex Maurer. Nobody tell her that. Anyway. Ms. Cleo or a similar character appears in Vice City. The actress who plays Ms. Cleo voiced her in the game. Oh, the actress who plays Ms. Cleo voiced her in the game and did give permission to use her likeness, but now she's died and they're challenging it. Okay. What's the worst advice a fellow lawyer has given me? My law school. I love my law school very much, but we disagreed on one major point. Every single year, they had a professional responsibility day, an ethical responsibility day where we would learn about our professional responsibilities and how to keep our nose clean and how to keep ourselves from falling prey to the evil that is social media. And I rejected this from the moment I heard it, that there was an evil social media and lawyers couldn't be on it. And I knew that the message was wrong. I knew that they were wrong. I understood what they were trying to say, and I even asked them if they would let me present the section about social media use. But instead of letting me present my side of social media use for lawyers, even before I was a lawyer, they just gave me a waiver and said, you don't have to attend. So what their message was don't use social media as an attorney. And that was some of the very, very, very worst advice anyone could have given a new attorney in 2007, 8, 9, 10. You needed to be, at that time, owning your social media profile and using it to build a community, build a following, build people who like your Facebook page and people who follow you on Twitter and stuff. And then that is it's your control of the social media message as opposed to your abandonment of it. If you abandon your social media profiles so that you never put anything up, then all I have to do to get control of your social media message is write an article about you. And suddenly everything that comes up about you is going to be my article. You cannot do that as an attorney. You need to be marketing yourself. Even if you're working for a firm, you should be taking control of your social media profile. Use it appropriately. Don't post pictures of yourself smoking marijuana or drinking and partying. Don't post pictures of yourself on vacation when you're supposed to be working. Don't post pictures of yourself with a flashy car while you're complaining about money, etc., 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 etc. A lot of that stuff is pretty obvious. That was the real message that they should have been sending, is don't be a dick in public because it's going to screw up your career. Instead, they said don't use social media. So that was the worst advice I've ever heard. Yes, bunch of old shrivs who are scared of computers. I don't know what a shriv is, so I really hope that that's not some major derogatory term, but yeah. Anything Goes asks, aside from word of mouth, how can I find a qualified divorce lawyer I can trust? That's pretty much it. Word of mouth. I would call a bunch of divorce lawyers and then maybe even a bunch of non-divorce lawyers in the area and see who they recommend, and you'll figure it out pretty quick who's recommended and who's not. The advice that I would give you in finding a divorce lawyer is check out reviews and things like that. There are a couple different categories, unpublished, unspoken categories of divorce lawyers. There are sort of mediators or reconciliators like me who like to make the divorce take as little time and effort and money as possible, and then there's the opposite. There are the divorce lawyers that are the attack dogs of the industry, and all that they want to do is cause pain and suffering, and they know that means that they'll be able to bill more and work more and drain more of the money out of the coffers of your divorce. Because here's how it works in divorce. You've acquired some kind of marital property, right? Most people have worked a job and bought a house or something and have some kind of marital property. Well, that sort of becomes like a pool of the marital money, and then at the end of the thing there will be some kind of distribution of funds. Well, in that flow of cash, in that distribution of funds, the lawyer can get a chunk of it by agreement because they've been representing this person for so long. Even if this person couldn't pay their hourly fee up till now they're going to be getting a 10, 20, 30 or more $1,000 chunk of change or whatever, and the lawyer can take that and keep it. So the lawyer will often work up a lot of time in a case because they can. And if it means they go to court a bunch, they litigate a bunch, that means things get delayed, but the lawyer gets paid. So that's not the way I do business. If I wanted to, I could have burned through the $17,000 from Imagos already, and I did not do that. I have not even gone through half of it, and that's just not ethical. It's just not the way that I like to work. I would not feel good on my new yacht if I knew that I got it off the backs and suffering of a bunch of people who I didn't help properly. If I'm going to get a yacht, you know the rest of us are going to be rising up too, because I just don't believe in that. I don't believe in one person being better than everybody else or having more than everybody else. I mean, I'm not a socialist either. I'm not a Marxist, and I don't believe that we should take from one to give to the other unnecessarily, but there's gotta be a balancing in between. And we can't have just purely one person rises above everyone and rules over them, and we can't have that we take from everybody and give to everybody else equally. It's gotta be something in between where there's an incentive to produce and give and provide, but there's also an insurance policy that people aren't going to be left to suffer and die unnecessarily. That is getting dangerously close to a political conversation that I'm not going to have on this channel, so we're going to stop that there. What is my win-lose ratio for court cases? It doesn't work that way. I settle a lot of cases, so is a settlement a win or a loss? The client doesn't pay as much as if they lost in court, but they also have to pay something. So did they win or lose? Do you win or lose when your client comes to you with facts that clearly indicate they're going to lose, and then you settle the case because that's the best way to do it? So it's hard to say whether that's a win or a loss. If a settlement's a loss, then I've lost a bunch because I've settled most of my cases. If a settlement's a win, then I've won a bunch. If it doesn't count, then it's hard to tell. I win a lot of my traffic cases, but then again, a lot of those are settlements too. There's a lot of settlements. I'm more of a mediator than a trial attorney sometimes. At trial, it's about 50-50, I think. It really comes down to the facts of the case most of the time. It's not... A lot of attorneys who win the vast majority of their cases simply pick and choose which cases they take to trial. That's really what it comes down to. A lot of attorneys don't mind losing their cases, as long as they're not losing because they're incompetent or something. If they're losing because they tried their best and put on all the evidence and the facts of the case really did go against their client, that's a loss, but that's nothing against the attorney. They really did their best. There are plenty of criminal defense attorneys who make sure that you get your day in court, that they put on the best defense you can get, and you will still lose your case at the end of the day. Another way to look at that, though, is that you won in the sense that you weren't hit with more charges or more claims or more litigation or more trial because you had a bad attorney who didn't know to object or when to exclude evidence or when to make a motion, or etc. So there's that. You still get good representation. Do I have a pile of hats? Yes, I absolutely have several piles of hats, and I'm literally going to be building a shelving system in my room, in my old bedroom, to keep all of the hats, and then we're going to do a series of videos on the building of that, and then etc. So that's a plan. Ken White is a good First Amendment lawyer, as far as I know. I haven't personally dealt with him, but once or twice, I think. A couple years ago, I asked him some questions, and he was very helpful. Is it upset to anyone else that Ilse is not getting any tennis balls? Kayla, you do not need to be upset. Ilse is the dominant dog, and she is the more alpha dog, and she definitely gets all the balls that she wants. She tends to hold on to the ball, and she tends not to let it go too much. So what happens is Nico, the golden, he can chase the ball, while Ilse just is holding a ball in her mouth, refusing to let it go. So you'll see me in the video, I give Ilse a command here or there when I want to throw the ball for her to make sure that she drops the ball that's in her mouth before she goes running for the other one. That's a very interesting observation, though, because she is the dominant dog, and she will just push Nico out of the way whenever she wants to. In fact, there was a video that I put up recently, just yesterday or the day before, where Nico steals the ball from her, which is very out of character for him, and it's very funny. He waits. He's like standing next to the ball. She comes charging at him for the ball. Then at the last second, he grabs it and just steps to the side. It was, you know what? I'll put it up here in a moment if I can figure out how. Oh, here's how I'll do it. I got it. You know what? I'm a little bit not in for the reggae trailer. Let's kill the reggae trailer. There we go. Let me find this video and then I'll put it up on the other. So here we are. I threw the ball for him. Well, not this one. It's in a second. There is a doggy YouTube channel. It's called Such Dogs, S-U-C-H Dogs, and I'll link to it in the chat. There we go. There's the Such Dogs TV channel, or YouTube channel, in the... and it is posted on the website as well. And then I will put it in the description of the video. Yeah. Just 1 second. Nope, nope. And then a link to this post. Copy link, update. Docs does not have a U in it. There we go. Okay, the description's updated as well with some of those links. So there you go. Where did my chat panel go? There we go. Okay, hello. Rafe asks if he can just send me pictures of his dog for support. Absolutely, I would love that. How far do I get with the dog ball thrower tool? About 100 yards at the farthest. And that's with the big long one. There's a short one too. I can't go as far with the short one. If a person got hurt due to a false DMCA, could YouTube be held liable for giving the information to the offending party? That's a good question, Ginger. Normally, the takedown information is passed between parties. I'm not sure that anybody has gone to court over whether that's proper or not proper. And, Padfrog asks, have I ever considered doing a Let's Play of Phoenix Wright? I did. I did do a, I think a 1 or 2 hour Let's Play of Phoenix Wright a while ago. I'll probably do that again. I had to do a special setup with my tablet to get it to go onto the stream and everything, but I think I got it, and it was pretty cool. I actually got a webcam just for that, if I remember correctly. So yeah, if there's interested in more Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, I will write that down here. All right, what else? Why use a tool? Because the tool's a lot easier. The tool is a lot easier. Ever gone full Ace Attorney in court? Sort of once. There was, I was in the middle of a family court case, and the opposing attorney said that pit bulls, the dogs, pit bulls, were naturally aggressive, and that the child couldn't be around my client because he had pit bulls. And I basically just burst out, and I was like, no, that's not true, just like that. I just burst right out, and the judge actually didn't admonish me, and let us yell at each other for a moment, and we literally yelled at each other about the pit bulls not being aggressive dogs naturally, you know, versus having to be trained to be pit bulls, to be pit dogs. So that was a moment where I just had enough. You just don't say that in front of me. That dogs are naturally anything bad. Dogs are wonderful. She was one of those aggressive attorneys who would say anything she needed to say, truth or not, ethical or not. Okay, maybe not. She would approach what I would consider an unethical use of obfuscation. But that's just my opinion. I'm not accusing her of actually being an unethical attorney. Unprofessional opposing counsel. No, not too much. I was about to start talking about one, but the most unprofessional that I've dealt with are people who, they toe the line of lies. They carefully tell lies that are only lies enough to get attention and not really lies enough to get punished. So somebody might delay by a month and then just say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see a date or something like that, and my secretary, whatever. And I doubt there was a secretary that made a mistake, but the person got a month, and my client had to pay for my appearance or something because they just lied. So that's mostly what I deal with, are the ones not unlike certain political administrations that simply obfuscate instead of trying to make progress or make some kind of agreement or come to an understanding with opposing sides and views. Instead, just put down their foot and say, if it's not my way, nobody's getting anything. And that just seems like a gross appropriation of everyone's time and effort so that someone can throw a what amounts to a temper tantrum, a useless temper tantrum. And even if there's a victory, it's a Pyrrhic victory, it's an empty victory. They've won nothing other than false power, a false sense of power. So it's just disgusting that anyone at all, both sides, I don't care your political persuasion, that would obfuscate instead of trying to move forward. And just to talk about the loving doggo situation for a moment, if you are ever in the situation where you are either raising or in charge of a dog, remember that they are people and treat them with positivity and compassion and patience. Try to treat them like they're about a 4 or 5 year old child, and they understand things, but they need lots of coaxing and goading and clear direction. And if you are going to be getting a dog or you want to own dogs, etc., 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 there are some wonderful, wonderful books about positive reinforcement. You almost can't forget this one. You got to read the books by the Monks of New Skeet. Skete. The Monks of New Skeet. New Skeet, New York is where that is. And they raise German Shepherds and other dogs that are positively the best companions you've ever seen. And I've read their book and Cesar Millan's book and a few others. And honestly, human beings as well, positive reinforcement is the way to go. It takes a lot more effort, but the human, the person, the dog that comes out is so much nicer, is a wonderful companion and a loving and caring individual that you just gotta go with positive reinforcement. This whole you smack things, or the beatings will continue until morale improves, or type X work personalities just does not work for me. I'm a Malcolm's Theory Y or Theory Z. You give me the tools, you give me some basic security, and I'll work really hard for you. If you eliminate my security, if you eliminate my stability, if you invalidate my efforts, I'm going to turn into that depressed monkey at the bottom of the trough that one scientist did to prove that when you remove all happiness from someone's life, they literally just want to die, and will just cave in and give in to the depression and just wait for death. That happens. That actually freaking happens, and it's caused by that sort of invalidation and mistreatment of a person. So if we treat people with compassion and understanding, and I don't mean blindly, but with just compassion and understanding, then there's a lot better results. And this starts again to approach the political argument. I still think it's a good idea that we have some sort of uniform healthcare in the world, because that's one of those stability and security needs. If you get sick, you can't work the same. I really don't care what your sickness is. If you hurt your thumb, you might have trouble working, But if you are mentally ill, or if you have broken a limb, or if you have cancer, you're not as productive. And if you're not as productive, you're not paying taxes. And if you're not as productive and you're not paying taxes, you're not contributing to the economy. And if you're going to go to the hospital and get treatment, and that treatment's not going to get paid for, you're not contributing to the economy. You're actively externalizing your costs to the economy, and it's hurting the economy. So why we wouldn't figure out that it costs less to insure everyone, and then try and enforce some kind of payment scheme? I understand that you're still going to have people who don't pay, and you have to enforce it, but overall, that little bit of spreading actually costs everyone much less than it does to do it separately. United we stand, divided we fall is not just a thing for war, but people have to learn sometimes on their own. Monks of the Church of Doggos. Male cats are great. If I was going to get a cat again, I think I would get like a ragdoll or what's the other one? The ragdoll-like one. Maine Coon. Those are just much nicer cats than, than the ones that I've had. Maybe it's also that I've been taking care of strays for so long that they're a little more ornery and not so loving. So maybe I need to take care of an actual, a kitten from scratch. But I think I might wait until I'm in more of a family situation. I've got my dogs. I love my dogs. I don't really want to be caring for a separate animal yet. Your dog loves being carried, Chloe the Shih Tzu? She wakes you up every morning at 5 or 6. Yeah, I have my guys are an alarm clock too. Nico will come in and he'll put his head on my bed right next to my face and just breathe into my face until I wake up. And his breath smells so horrible sometimes. I prefer dogs to political discussion as well. So what else do we have? Was there anything else to go over? Rockstar sued. HBO was in a cyber attack. HBO this week announced a recent cyber attack that may have compromised a Game of Thrones script, highlighting hackers' growing appetite for more than just the sensitive consumer data, but also companies' intellectual properties. Thoughts on greyhounds? I mean, greyhounds are great dogs. It's kind of sad that they were bred to be kind of weak in other ways in order to be so light for running. So I think everyone needs to rescue a greyhound, but at the same time, there are lots of people out there benefiting from using and abusing the greyhounds. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Beyonce, another was in the news again. She was hit with a $20 million copyright suit over sampling of audio. Courts have in the past said that sampling music or sampling audio is a per se copyright infringement. Per se meaning automatic. That's not what per se actually means, but that under the law, per se means pretty much automatic. If you copy a little bit of a person's piece of music and use that sample in your music, that is technically a copyright violation and is not a fair use. Although it may seem like you're using a very small or minuscule or de minimis part of the copyright, there is court precedent that says that that is a per se or automatic copyright infringement case and not. How long after the streams do you post the live streams to my channel? Christopher, it happens automatically with YouTube, so as fast as YouTube posts it. So Beyonce allegedly copied something, and maybe we can look into that. So let me know if anybody's interested in the Beyonce sampling case. In fact, I'm going to put that one on, because we don't talk about that enough. And I do sampling as well. In itself. Thank you, Whiskers. That's great. So it does sort of mean automatically. It means inherently. It means it happens inherently by itself. Galgamos, how long does a section need to be for it to infringe? There are only so many notes you can use. Correct. Basically, even one note is infringing. The sample would have to be a sample that's one note long, but that's a number of cycles of the waveform, and that is enough for you to be able to show an identical copy. And if that's the case, that's an automatic copyright infringement, pretty much no matter how long it was. Sampling would apply to any captured audio. So if you are capturing audio and then using it in a resampled fashion, it either better be pretty damn well unrecognizable, and I mean like to a legal extent, that's not even, I don't even know what that is yet, but it better be unrecognizable, or you should have permission for it. So if you're Greg Gillis from Girl Talk and you're using hundreds of samples you should be considering getting permission to use those samples. Travis Pilant, yes and no. Leonard, he asks, if you take the stand as a witness, how come the court can require you to answer questions? We have freedom of speech. Can't you say I'm not answering that? Well, yes and no. The freedom of speech has limits, and you are only allowed to not testify by subpoena if you're subpoenaed. If the testimony would be about something criminal to you, you can use the Fifth Amendment under the United States Constitution to not answer questions of a criminal nature. If you choose not to answer any other questions, the judge gets to use their discretion as to how they treat it. If it is contempt of court, then you could be fined or thrown in jail after a hearing about your contempt. But if it is simply that you are, like, let's say you're a party in a case. I'll use a good example that comes up with my cases often. Let's say you're accused of copyright infringement, piracy, and under oath you refuse to answer questions in a civil suit, in a civil lawsuit, not a criminal lawsuit. In a civil lawsuit, you refuse to answer questions about the alleged copyright infringement. What is that? The failure to answer questions is something that a plaintiff's attorney or opposing counsel could attack and ask the judge for an adverse inference, could ask the judge to assume certain information because you refuse to answer questions. So if I'm accusing you of copyright infringement and you refuse to answer questions about whether you committed the copyright infringement, or whether the files are on your computer, or whether the piracy software is on your computer, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if you refuse to answer those questions, I could ask the court for an adverse inference, and that inference would be that the answers to those questions are yes, that you had access to the software and you had access to the thing and you did download the stuff. So thank you, Cerulean, for banning that iPhone spammer. How do you copyright a meme? A meme is an electronic high five or hug. That's a problem with the medium less than the meme. The meme itself, the idea behind the meme is not copyrightable. But the meme itself, when you take a picture and you put text over it and you then post that around the internet, that is somebody's copyright, and the underlying components are somebody's copyright. And so you have to, go to court and explain that that's a fair use, and you're going to have to make the arguments of fair use. So let's say there was that commercial. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So somebody goes and uses the Esurance commercial and makes a meme out of it and says, copyright law, something or other, that's not how this works, that's not how any of this works, and posts a picture of that commercial with the text, that's not how this works, whatever. Is that using their copyright? Yes, and it is technically a copyright infringement of Esurance. However, then you have the fair use defense. Is it a defense to copyright infringement of Esurance's commercial? And I think maybe it is a fair use. It is transformative. You're not using it to usurp the original work. You're not using it for a commercial purpose. It's not even to represent a brand or to represent a person. It's to represent an idea. So I honestly do believe that most meme uses would be fair use, but each individual meme use needs to be given a fair use analysis. So good luck doing that to every single time somebody wants to moderate or use a meme. Are peer-to-peer downloading programs like BitTorrent considered piracy software? No, they are considered software that's used to commit piracy, but also has a legitimate purpose. software that doesn't have a legitimate purpose is like Kazaa or LimeWire or back in the day Napster. Those were all more or less illegal programs per se, and this BitTorrent has done a lot to distance itself from piracy, yet it is still an open piece of software that can be used to commit piracy, because how would anyone police that? That's just not possible. The Erik Clanton bike lock affair. Well, don't hit anyone with your bike lock, but other than that, I don't know what the rest of the affair was. I don't know. No, I wasn't saying that Kazaa or Napster still exist. Those were 10, 20 years ago, but that was those were the ones that were clearly illegal. Split Frame asks, what about Let's Plays who play a short story or a short story-heavy game, like let's say Persona 5, all the way to the end? Not necessarily transformative. You need transformative, and fair use means you're using a minimum amount of the work to make your point. So what critique or commentary or point is a person making who is simply playing a game on stream? To me, that seems like it might be closer to a public performance. So unless you are making critical commentary the entire stream, and even then, why did you have to stream the game from start to finish to make critical commentary when you could have cut it up? I think you're playing or performing the game in most complete Let's Play scenarios. And so there really is a not fair use or a yes copyright infringement analysis there. Okay, so maybe Persona 5 isn't short, but still, sorry, I haven't played it. Should I play it? Actually, I hear it's really good, and I did get a PS4. So should I play through Persona 5? Not necessarily on stream, I just mean personally. Okay, but thank you. Obviously, Persona 5 is not short enough if you've told me that now. What about fan games that get taken down on Nintendo for only being a bit similar to their games? That is a very difficult situation, Mikhail. If you make a game that's only similar to a Nintendo game but is not substantially similar, then they do not have the right to take it down. If you are making a piece of fan fiction that uses Nintendo's properties but only a little bit, that's not a fair use. That's back to something closer to a per se copyright infringement. Alright, Persona is a great series if you've got 100 hours to spare. Okay, maybe I will check out Persona 5. I don't know that I have 100 hours to spare, but I will definitely appreciate long RPG games. Alright, what else we got going on this morning? Richard Prince says Instagram photos in exhibit were fair use. So there was a gentleman who, a photographer who made an art gallery installation, not a post, an art gallery installation using Instagram posts. He would take photographs and put them into a frame that looked very much like an Instagram post, and that was his art. And he has been sued because he used those photographs without permission. And so Richard Prince is saying that he was making a fair transformative use, and the plaintiff, Donald Graham, plaintiff Donald Graham has said that the use of those photographs is not transformative, is not a fair use. All he did was take the actual photograph and put a larger frame around it. He did not purchase the photograph. He just put a. So if that's the case, then it does not sound like a fair use to me. But that's another one that can be covered. So I'm going to actually put that on this list as well. First few hours of Persona 5 are really slow. Okay. What are my thoughts on Gawker v. Hogan, or Hogan v. Gawker? That was a very malicious case. If I understand correctly, Gawker had the sex tape, knew that they weren't allowed to publish it, but did it anyway, as well as said some other things that were possibly defamatory or were definitely defamatory against Hogan. So the question then becomes, how appropriate is it that that litigation was funded by Peter Thiel? I don't know how to feel about that. I think it's fine that litigation can be funded by outside sources. Imagos wouldn't be in this boat wouldn't be in their fight without funding from yours, from your sources, from this supporters of this channel and other supporters, wonderful people out there who saw the terrible situation and donated to the GoFundMe and everything. By the way, that is still alive, and people can still donate if any of you are so inclined. Would streaming a video game to demonstrate an AI be considered fair use? Yes, that's much closer to a fair use than not. No promises, guarantees, or anything on that. You would need to consult with an attorney or at least look the fair use factors up and try and apply them to your particular situation. But trying to show something is not necessarily the same as a critique. So as long as you're adding critique or commentary along with your short video demonstrating the AI, that probably sounds like a fair use. Try the game Disgaea. Takes 3,000 hours. No, thank you. How does the FBI succeed in shutting down sites like ExtraTorrent that only contain magnet links to films and not the works themselves? They convince a court that the site is aggregating illegal content, that the site has no useful purpose, and they just get permission from a judge to do that. Could you talk a little bit about how software copyrights are copyrightable? Normally functional things are not copyrightable. So if you write down 2 + 2 = 4, that's not copyrightable. However, in computer code, you're not writing down the actual functional language. You're writing down the code that is then interpreted into the machine code or object code. Or excuse me, you're writing the object code, and your object code is getting interpreted into machine code by the compiler. So that's why that's copyrightable. You can copyright the source code because then it gets compiled into the no, it is object code. I'm getting my terminology mixed up. Object code is the yes, object code is the output. So yes, the object code or the output of the compiler is the functional code, and that is not directly copyrightable, as far as I know. Might still be. I don't know. Why is a walkthrough of a game illegal if it's a video, but if it's text, okay? No. Star Trekking, it's not the same. If you are doing a video of a video game, that would be that situation. If you're writing the text to like write out what you think the story is of the video game, that could still be copyright infringement. If you're reviewing a video game, though, that's different. If it was a text, like let's say it's a text work, and you then perform the text work, that's also copyright infringement. So you can't copy a book the same way you can't copy somebody's video. If you walk into public and read a book out loud, that is copyright infringement. You are publicly performing the work. I, for example, am currently seeking permission from Isaac Asimov's estate to read to you Robot Visions, a short work by Isaac Asimov, the science fiction author. I cannot just go read that on stream without that being copyright infringement and without me being potentially liable. Interpreted code is still the same thing. The code needs to get interpreted by something else and then run. I also think there's case precedent that accepts EXC EPT, that makes an exception for software in copyright. What else? Alright, and we talked about the Internet Crimes Complaint Center. So that's pretty much it for me. That's what I wanted to cover this stream. Please, let's take 5 or 10 minutes and let me answer your questions. And I'll continue to be here and let everything else go. And if you have any suggestions as well, that's great. I think Brandon fell asleep playing Dota. What's the craziest things my dogs have done? They're not too crazy. Ilsa once chased the mailman. That was very stressful. I was playing with her in the backyard of my Bethlehem office. William Coney, I don't know what Kempfiosman is. If you can give me a one-sentence summary in this chat. I was playing with Ilsa back when I didn't have Nico. He was unborn yet. And I was playing with Ilsa, and she always wanted to meet the mailman, but the mailman was always terrified of her, and she would do a very enthusiastic barking routine when she saw the mailman, but I knew that it was not her angry bark, it was I want to say hi bark, it was her excited bark. The mailman did not see it that way, and when Ilsa got out of the backyard and bolted at the mailman, he thought that she was coming to attack him, when she was really just super, super excited to say hi. Well, it was something out of a cartoon. The arms went flying in the air. The mail went into a cloud in the air, and I've never seen legs move that fast. And that man ran down the sidewalk and hid on the porch of another jumped over a fence and hid on the porch of another house from my dog while I ran after her and grabbed her. I apologized profusely. People were standing around because there was a school and it was school time, and parents were yelling at me for letting the dog loose. It was just a horrible time. I was actually so embarrassed, and aside from that, had been having such a problem with the parents from the school that I just decided to leave that office. Like literally because of that instance, I was just done, and I just wanted to get out of there and never come back. I was so embarrassed that my dog had made a big scene. So now, I don't trust her off-leash, basically. She's a very independent dog, and that was the one time that I needed to teach me that even though she's very well trained, she doesn't always listen to me when she's off-leash. So I would have to do much more training and work on that a lot more, but I haven't always done that, so she stays on the leash when we go out in public, which is also probably the way she should. Nico hasn't done anything nearly as terrifying. The one time he chased the ball in the stream, where we were at we were doing a stream stomp, and he chased the ball into the fast-moving deep water. And as the ball, he caught the ball, but then he let it go, and it just shot away from him in the fast-moving water. So he went farther into the fast-moving water to get after the ball. And after the third or fourth or fifth try, I started running into the fast-moving water as fast as I could to catch my dog before he got washed away. I know the stream very well, and there was a pool slightly downstream, and he would have been fine. But I saw the look in his eyes, and he was a little panicked when he realized that he didn't have control. So he just kept his head above water, and he finally figured out to swim to the side of the fast-moving water, and when he got to the side, it slowed down, and then he could touch bottom, and then he was much happier. And he learned his lesson. He knew not to go to the fast-moving water again. But there was that 30 seconds of kind of terror or panic, and my dog's going to get washed away. Where would you go to find things in the public domain? That's a tough one, Don. People want to get paid for stuff, right? So if you're not getting paid for stuff, what incentive is there? So most of the time, there aren't collections of things in the public domain. However, there are one or two really good ones, like the Gutenberg Library. Is that the name of it? There's Project Gutenberg, I think it is. Project Gutenberg, 54,000 free ebooks. They might still be copyrighted, though. That's not the same thing. And you wanted books? Is that the question? Okay, yeah, copyright free anything. You'd want to do some searches for royalty free or copyright free or public domain. That's really the best you can do. There are some sites that aggregate it. Otherwise, you've got to look for sources that are old enough to be off copyright, and that means about 100 years old at this point. Yeah, things that are about 100 years old are mostly coming off copyright at this point, but even then, every single one of those, you have to do an analysis about who owns it, whether it was renewed or transferred, etc., because things changed a lot in 1978, and anything before that really needs a full analysis. Let alone if your copyright is international, that makes it's even more different. Ilse is a strong, independent dog who don't need no leash. Yep, that's pretty much it. Library of Congress, archive.org. Yes, okay, those all sound like good. Pixabay. Reefer Madness. LibriVox. Okay, yeah, you've got a lot of resources here in chat, so definitely check out chat if you want some of those resources. Let me check OBS and make sure this is scrolling properly. Yeah, see, there we go. It's good, everything. Kemp v. Osmond is a small claims court case, okay? Over dog ownership here in Nova Scotia, judges decide to have two prospective owners call for the dog to see who comes to determine ownership. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I guess that's a better test than not. When my ex-girlfriend and I got a dog together, we made an explicit agreement that it would be her dog. She was paying for it. I already had a dog. So we made an explicit agreement. And then when we broke up, I didn't challenge her. And I love my Kato very much, but that was our agreement. I miss my Kato very much. Happy Birthday is not under copyright at all, as far as I know. There was a court case where the Happy Birthday people sued over the use of Happy Birthday, and they were unable to prove that they owned the copyright to Happy Birthday. That's right, the plaintiffs themselves sued and did not have the evidence to prove their own case. So that's what I would call a loss. I went to the law school of Widener University in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's a lower tier law school, but it is a more affordable law school and was definitely more accessible to me. I had to travel to school, and it was much easier to get back and forth to that school than anywhere else in my driving distance. One of my girlfriend named her bloodhound looking dog. He doesn't Kato. He has a little bit of bloodhound and shepherd in him. She named him Kato after Cato the Greek. Was he a ruler, philosopher? I forget. Barudzda, lawyer here. Love your work on explaining and showing cases. Thank you so much for your comments. I don't remember who the Happy Birthday people sued. We can find that out with a quick Google search. Is Disney as responsible for current copyright lengths as they said to be? Yes, Disney is pretty much directly responsible for current copyright laws. They lobbied, is the word I was looking for, lobbied Congress heavily and have been lobbying them more and more. I believe they lobbied them more than once to extend copyright so that Mickey Mouse would be protected. Not Kato Kalin. It was Warner Chappell who bought Happy Birthday, but then they were unable to prove that they owned it. That's interesting. What exactly is the bar test? It's called the bar exam. It doesn't bar test, bar exam, whatever, but it's called the bar exam. It is a 2 or 3 day written and multiple choice test Usually 6 hours of written questions and 6 hours of multiple choice questions. Sometimes there's a third day for some states, where they will ask you questions about state and federal law and make sure you know all of your basic foundations of how to be a lawyer. Or rather, how to have a law license. I don't know about how to practice law. That's not something they really teach you too much. Cato was a Roman senator. Yes, there we go. Thank you. Cato the Elder and Cato the Younger. I don't know who she named him after. I did not know there were two Catos. Any thoughts on Sci-Hub, the Russian search engine for research papers? That's a really tough question, too. Obviously, a research paper is copyrightable. The question becomes, if my public funds paid for a research paper, shouldn't I have unlimited access, unlimited access to that research paper? If U.S. government funds went to a research paper, shouldn't I have access to it as an American citizen? If Russian government funds went to a Russian research paper, shouldn't Russian citizens have access to it? I believe that. Good luck. I really don't know where you go with that one. I'm fairly certain Steamboat Willie is the one coming off of copyright in a year or so. How often do I work on international copyrights? Often enough. People have questions around the world. I consider those international, or questions on international copyright. But specifically, like when someone has an actual issue and I want to do an investigation, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a month, I check out someone's case on whether they've had an international copyright violation. Recently, the ones I've been looking at were like Japan, and whether you have a fair use right or not. Is malware tech just completely out of luck since he admitted to writing that software? I don't know. I have not looked into it. I grabbed the complaint or the indictment, and I have started to look at it, but I haven't gotten into it yet. Some guy, really, someone called their company Malware. Yeah, Malware Tech, and he was the hacker who may have accidentally solved the WannaCry United Kingdom virus infestation problem when he discovered that the virus had a backdoor and he was able to exploit the backdoor, but yet they still charged him with a separate crime from 2014, I believe. Okay, it is 11:30. I think I'm going to start my my in real life day. So I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Sunday. Or actually, some of you, it's no longer Sunday, huh? So that's also, yeah. 1 second here. There we go. If you were affected by a false DMCA from Alex Malware, please hit me up on my Discord or email me with the details. I've posted a link in the description for the FBI's Internet Crimes Complaint Center, and if you have been affected, you should first go and fill out that form, including all the details about what happened to you and how, as I really don't see how we're going to stop Alex unless we get the authorities involved at an even greater level. So thank you all for joining me. First, let me thank New Sensei for sponsoring a Basics of Copyright for YouTube Creators video that will be released later this month. Also, let me thank my $50 plus supporters, Joshua Meinzinger, Baxorn, John Cripps, Nate Beck, John Steele, Westin, Lohne, and Lydia Collinson. Thank you all so much for your wonderful support. Thank you to all of my $5 plus supporters who are scrolling on my panel behind me, and I will put them in a link in the description below, or we'll put them in the description below. And all of my other Patreon and other supporters, you are all so wonderful that you are keeping this community going, and I love you all. This is a weekly live stream, so please join us again at 10 o'clock next Sunday morning, Eastern Time, Eastern United States Time, Eastern Standard Time, I think we're in right now, and 9:30 Eastern Standard Time if you are a Patreon supporter. Nothing terribly big happens for the first half hour. It's just me setting up and us chatting, and you can provide me some feedback on what you'd like to see and have a more personal conversation. So 9:30 if you are any kind of patron, and 10 o'clock for the actual show next Sunday, the August 13th. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and I'll see you in my next video. Have a great day, or a great night, and a great week.